This is the CompuSports Radio Network.
Welcome to the Coach's Corner Radio Show. I'm John Anderson, and my guest this week is Coach Mike Pope, an assistant coach at Wingate University. We'll be talking this week defending the option attack. Coach Pope comes with some really good credentials, and I'm sure you're going to love what he's got to say in regards to stopping the option. This week's program is going to be simulcast on OptionCentral.net on a program called The Mesh Point, where we discuss everything option. OptionCentral.net, everything option in one easy place. And if you've never heard Coach Pope before, he might be from the South. Just might be. But that's okay. We're going to team up and go get some barbecue here after this is over with here during the off season. Mike Pope is next.
Improve your coaching this season with Easy Scout Professional from CompuSports. Affordable and easy to use, Easy Scout Professional lets you watch game video on your computer as you categorize offense, defense, and special teams plays. Find and review individual plays. Then pause, restart, rewind, and even watch frame by frame for fast and detailed video analysis. Scout your opponent or your own team. Identify tendencies, evaluate players and teams, and mark plays to include in cut-ups and highlights. Print tendency reports and copy cut-ups to CD, DVD, or memory stick and upload to sharing sites like YouTube. Easy Scout Pro is compatible with Windows 7, Vista, and XP and does not require an internet connection. Download the 21-day free trial now and discover how easy and affordable it can be to work with digital video today.
Mr. Anderson.
This segment of Coach's Corner is sponsored by CompuSports, publisher of the Easy Scout Professional. An affordable all-in-one football scouting and editing program, Easy Scout Professional, available at CompuSports.com. My guest is sitting with us in front of the digital fireplace from his home in Monroe, North Carolina. He's a little bit from the South. And just to give you an idea how far a little bit, he is just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. He's got a website that most of you are familiar with, and we've talked with him before here about a year ago from one of his camps. Please welcome Coach Mike Pope. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, John. How you doing? I'm just very excited to be talking with you today. We're going to talk about something that's dear to my heart, playing defense. All right,
and Coach, you've got a website called hogtough.net, and for those of you from the South, you know how to spell the Southern vernacular version of Hog Tough, HAWGTUFF.net. For those of you from the North who haven't heard that before, that's how we spell it down here. Isn't that right, Coach?
That's exactly right. And I can tell I'm an old Southern boy. And I started the camps 22 years ago now, and just decided that the Hogs, old Hogs and Washington Redskins were the Hogs, and so I named it after it. And I thought tough, TUFF was a lot tougher than TUGH. So that's how we got the camp started, and that's how we named the camp. It's up with us ever since.
As I really enjoyed going down to your camp last year, and we've talked to several of your coaches over the last year who were down there at that camp, and hopefully we can do that again sometime.
That would be great.
Coach, you have come on to the show. You are ready to talk defense this week and defensing the option.
Yes, sir. I'm really excited about it.
Tell us why you have taken this particular approach to defensing the option.
Well, first of all, let me tell you my concept of defense. When I was a 4A offensive coordinator at Sumter High School, we had 120-something kids on the varsity football team. I had 55 kids that played offense, and we had another 55 or 60 kids that played defense. Our offensive kids didn't know anything about what the defense did, and they didn't defense knew what we did. I went to Blackville Hill to be head coach, and I had about 40 kids on the team, but everybody played both ways. A good story there is my wife. It was real funny. I had my first job as head coach, and I beat the team 44-0. I think it was about 36-0 at halftime. We were going to a South Carolina Gamecock, University of South Carolina Gamecock game, and we were riding down the road. My wife looked over. He said, "Mike, I'm concerned about you." And I said, "What you mean?" And she said, "We just like coaching." at Blackville Hill where I was, that you like you did at Sumter. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, when you was at Sumter, when the offense went off the field, you took the whole offense over, and all the guys huddled around you. You talked about what you were going to do next series, made adjustments. Well, you don't do that at Blackville. I said, dear, have you ever watched what happens at Blackville when when the offense comes off the field? One guy comes off the field with the quarterback, and then one guy goes to safety or something goes on to play his position. And where, because most of the kids play both ways, and it was kind of funny that she didn't pick up on that. But when I went to small school, I learned that you had to double teach defense and offense to the kids. And so what I did, we run a defense on some variation of 4-2-5 that everybody's running now, and we got it basically from the University of Maryland, and then we did our own concept. And in that defense, we can line it with a 4-digit number, and we can put our defensive tackles, the defensive ends, in different techniques. And our linebackers would adjust to where those defensive linemen lined up, and we can line up in every defense known to mankind. I mean, it's probably 200 different variations. And so what it did, it taught our kids on offense. We taught our kids on offense in terms of the other team's defense and our terms of defense, where it was a good conversational idea where the kids could understand what we're talking about during games and practice and during a meeting. So our kids basically learned every defense that they were going to see using our vernacular or our terminology. And so that's why we got in that defense, and it was very, very good because what it would do, we could line up in one defense, we could be lined up with our defensive tackles on the inside shoulder of the guards and our defensive ends on the outside shoulder of the tackles and our linebackers in that guard-tackle gap and what I call a tight tackle 6 look, and then when the team comes up and lines up, we can holler shift, and we shift our guards out to an outside shoulder of the guards and the tackles and linebackers inside the guards and do kind of split look or some variation thereof. And that caused a lot of confusion. And that's the main thing we wanted to do on defense. We wanted to cause confusion on the offensive line and also the quarterback. It made it hard for them to read the option. So that's the thing that really messes up option. It's causing the quarterback and the dive back and the offensive line in turn to have confusion on who to block and who they're reading and all that stuff. That's why we ran that defense. That's why we got into the defense. And if I was the head coach or in a high school again, I'd be running the same defense again. That's really believing that concept of double teaching.
I know in Sumter, South Carolina, and I know where that is, by the way. Not too far from there is a little town called Turbyville.
Oh, yeah, about 10 miles, yeah.
And we went, I was vacationing down there. We went over to Turbyville and then went over to Sumter, South Carolina for one reason and one reason only. Outside of Sumter, I think it's Highway 26 or 28 or something like that, there is a crawfish farm.
Oh, yeah, the crawfish, yeah.
And we pulled back about 2 or 3 coolers worth of crawfish, and we brought them back to North Carolina with us.
Yeah.
And we had us a fun time, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah, crawfish is good. They boil them, and I mean, just slick on the head. I mean, it's
Coach Mike Pope is my guest, and we'll talk a little bit more about defense when we come back on Coach's Corner.
Easy Cut from CompuSports is a fast and enjoyable way to edit and analyze your game videos. Watch entire games on your computer, then label and index plays with a click of a mouse. Copy scenes to CD, DVD, or a memory stick, and upload to online video sharing sites like YouTube. Search and sort plays by keywords. Then pause, restart, rewind, and even watch frame by frame for fast and detailed video analysis. Easy Cut is compatible with XP, Vista, and Windows 7. Download the 21-day free trial now or order on CD and discover how easy it is to start analyzing your game videos today.
This segment of Coach's Corner is sponsored by CompuSports, distributor of the Playmaker Pro and Coach's Office playbook software packages, available at CompuSports.com.
Mike Pope is my guest in front of the digital fireplace from his home in Monroe, North Carolina. Coach, let's go ahead and talk some more defense.
Well, first of all, I explained the concept why we ran the defense we ran, and talking about defense and the option. And again, I was an option guy, an option power sweep. I've been the option power and ISO and sweep for years until I became a spread guy. And the biggest problem with running the option and playing defense is it gave you false front. We would line up one place and plant and lose the other defense. And so what we tried to do is we tried to give that quarterback a different look every time he came to the ball. And we would give him we'd line up in a 5 technique where our defensive end on the outside shoulder tackle, and we'd slant across the face and loop a linebacker and stuff like that to give them multiple looks. And it was very easy to do out of that 4-2-5 base defense. And we wanted to give them a different look on the dive, but also wanted to give them a different look on who that quarterback and who that pitch. That was very important.
All right. When you initially install your plan for option defenses, and I know you faced a number of them down there, and even in a lot of the conferences, let me try it this way. The conferences that you're even in now, you've got 3 flex mode teams that you're operating against, being down there at Wingate.
So we got a split back team in Carson and 2 flex mode teams in Bavard and Monroe. Yeah. Yes.
When you're installing this at the beginning of the year, are you doing something similar to what Bear Bryant did in laying out techniques and then trying to incorporate that all into one package, or are you starting with one defense at a time?
We line up in the defense. We work on it. We work on our stuff year-round. We use the weightlifting classes we did. We did weightlifting, every day, depending on what kind of period we were, our period, if we were on, meeting twice a week or 3 times a week. We would work our running and conditioning program and our weightlifting program. We'd always finish up with something on defense or offense every day that we were in there. And so we would actually line for our defense, and we'd do all the shifts and stuff like that. We basically had all that stuff in before we did spring practice. And then, again, by double teaching the kids, we ran the same defense on the youth league level and the middle school level and the JV and varsity. By the time they got to us, they pretty much knew how to line up in the defense. And also being a big option team myself, we actually, it might be our first guys running the option, working on offense, but we had our second guys playing defense. So they got a lot of work versus options. So that was kind of a 2-way sword again for us. That, we usually did pretty good with options. One thing I learned about most option coaches, they have big tendencies. Some guys are real big inside dive guys. Some guys are real big outside, zone guys. And some guys, like the power ISO game with it, and the power and ISO game with it also at the split back or the eye. And so, a lot of times we can tell where they want to go, because if you watch quarterbacks, and even in spread teams, they have a chance to do this. A lot of quarterbacks come to the line, and they'll look to the side first. They're going to run the ball to, or they're going to run the play to. And that's a big key for the kids, and you pick up on that pretty good. And at least you know which side they're going to. And I mean, that's something I really always stress our quarterback. We come up and we look straight downfield, and then we always turn right and into the left on every play, just so that they can't get a key on them. You have to be real careful not giving the defense an edge by giving a key. And we were pretty good on defense because we lined up on every day playing defense against off. And got into some real good looks, and we found out some things that really give options to it.
See, we did a remote show out in Bryson City. We talked to the staff at Swain County High School, a school I know you're familiar with, and we talked with their defensive staff, and they were more of a bend, don't break sort of defense that pursued to the ball. They weren't real big on penetration. How did you teach your defense?
Now what we did, it depends on the concept. Again, we were a stunning defense. We usually have 1 or 2 linebackers doing some kind of defensive lineman doing some kind of X or some kind of movement all the time or some slant. Because a lot of times, when we were very talented, we didn't have to worry about that. We just lined up playing defense. And most times, we were really good on offense. Because I thought a better offensive coach than the guys that were playing against. And whereas defense, we could play pretty good technique, and on defense, if the guys broke line of scrimmage, sometimes we were in trouble, and we didn't have a lot of fast guys. And so we tried to get them stopped before they got running, you know. And so we tried to attack, and then sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we would mirror, and but again, our kids got so much work against playing the dive. Our down linemen did that they were very proficient at they would actually look like they were feathering, which I talked about feathering them in our first show we did. We kind of give a look like you're just squatting, and then all of a sudden, on the last minute, you step down and make a play. And one thing I learned about playing defensive line and stopping the option, if you don't get your shoulder pads down into the hole and be parallel to the line of scrimmage, you're not going to tackle that dive back for less than 3 yards. And we always taught our kids on the option, if you run the inside veer, you don't see shoulder square in the hole of the defender, you give the ball. He's not going to tackle the guy for less than 3 yards. And a lot of times, with the angle he's going to try to tackle it, the running back's going to run out of his arms. So we worked real hard at trying to keep our shoulder pads always parallel to the line of scrimmage, even though we were stunting, we were trying to keep our shoulder pads parallel to the line of scrimmage. And made a wall. We wanted to make a wall against the option, not give me a place to be able to get a good read. You know.
Mike Pope is my guest. He is an assistant coach at Wingate University down there in Monroe, North Carolina. And we'll be right back with more Coach Pope and Defending the Option. You're listening to Coach's Corner on the CompuSports Radio Network.
Coaches helping coaches. We have all heard this is the message behind Jerry Campbell Football. Now, Coach Campbell has upgraded his website to make it easier for you to navigate and find material you need quickly to become a more effective and knowledgeable coach. Jerry Campbell Football has books and DVDs available, whether it be offense, defense, resume preparation, the kicking game, or PowerPoint training. Jerry Campbell Football has what you need to build your knowledge base. Whether from using a traditional approach to cutting-edge technology, you can enhance your knowledge in nearly any area. All this and more at www.jerrycampbellfootball.com. That's www.jerrycampbellfootball.com.
This segment of Coach's Corner is brought to you by Jerry Campbell Football. Check out Coach Campbell's book, Combining the 3-3-5 with the 4-2-5 Defensive Scheme at www.jerrycampbellfootball.com.
Mike Pope is my guest. He has a website called hogtough.net, and he's got a lot of great stuff up there, and some of the stuff that we're talking about is up there on that website, is it not, Coach?
Yes, sir. We've got all the PowerPoints that I talk about. I'm really kind of getting in the clinic talking mode. I'm going to do some things. I did some things with Nike this year. I'm going to do some laser slings next year. And so I always try to do PowerPoints. You know, I've always been a visual learner myself. And you can hear it, and if you can see it and hear it at the same time, I think it's always better. So I really believe in PowerPoint. And one thing I did as a coach, I use PowerPoint. I put my game plan on PowerPoint, gave it to my kids, and also our scouting was all on that, and all our playbooks and defense and offense were all on PowerPoint. And so PowerPoint's a great way for the coaches to teach your kids the offense, defense, and special things.
Coach, let's go ahead and talk defending the option here. You were wanting to cover multiple fronts and a lot of movement up inside and creating chaos for the offense and just driving the quarterback crazy by halftime.
Yeah, that's what we want to do. And again, we were basically a four-man front with 2 linebackers and sometimes 3. And we tried to never line up the same defense on any 2 snaps. And we could do it very easy with our 4-digit number system. And the way that worked was our first digit was we did 24, 25, 25. And that first digit, that set our defensive tackle to the strong side. That two technique for us was inside shoulder guard. And then our tackle that side was a 5. The next digit was a 5. His line for the outside shoulder tackle. And then that third digit was where the defensive tackle to the weak side lined up. Again, it was a 2, or it could be a 3 or whatever. And that last fourth digit was where our defensive men lined up. And our linebackers lined up in the fourth away from where the defensive linemen lined up. So we could give you a 4-2 look and be a split look one play, or a tight tackle the next, or a stack defense the next, like a 3-3 stack. And it was it was easy for us to do it, and the kids really understood what we were doing, and it never changed our option responsibility. That's one thing I always learned. You've got to have specific responsibility to defend the option. You've got to have a guy on the dive, and then probably 2 guys on the dive. Then you got to have a guy on the quarterback, and you got to have 1 or 2 guys playing quarterback and pitch. And so it's very important. So what we would line up, and again, in different defenses, when they come to the line of scrimmage, we would ship out a lot of them, or we would stunt out a lot of them, and stunt from 2 technique on the inside of the guard. We would slant across the face to a 3 technique, and that linebacker would slant across from there and go back to that A gap, and it's very effective. And it was hard to block. The basic things we've seen against us that hurt us, or the things that coaches try to hurt us, they could not run the inside by dive. They would go to the outside veer or the lead option. The same thing I would do if I had against defense like that, and they would gap him and try to lead the outside or run power, with a power game. But the multiple fronts is the way to go. Kids really enjoyed doing it. They felt like they had an edge. And then by doing that all the time in practice, our offensive linemen really learned to adjust different movement on defense, too. And again, that was a double-edged sword. That was very important for us.
I understood you to say when you were calling your fronts, you would line up to the strength of the formation. What if a team what are your rules if a team comes out to you in a double tight end set with 2 wide receivers, one split each side?
We go wide side, or preference to our left, to the right side of the defense. If everything's balanced, we'll go wide side strong, or preference to the left side of our defense, to their right. And most teams are right-handed. Again, we had game plan situations. Some teams would go strong to the short side and trying to get us to play everything to the short side of the field with it, but we would do that, and so we would play strong to the wide side instead of doing it to the other. Now, one thing you can do as a coach, you don't have to do it strong side, weak side. You could have your first 2 digits dictating to what the defensive tackle end does to the left side, the other 2 digits going to the right side. And that's what I would do if I was a youth coach or a middle school coach. We had sometimes a problem learning what strong and weak is. So a lot of times you can teach it that way too. In fact, I've coached some high school teams, we had to do that. Our first 2 digits would dictate to the left, and to the other 2 digits would go to the right. Because the coach can learn strong and weak, but then the kids didn't have to always learn as quite as well.
I imagine you have to have somebody giving a call as to where the strength of the formation was.
Yeah, linebacker. Linebacker does. And again, I'm telling you, the linebackers love, because most of our linebackers played in touch, because the offensive line was so concerned in getting those defensive linemen blocked in all those different places. They were slanting and twisting from and lining up different places. A lot of times linebackers didn't even get blocked. They were just free on tackles, and they had a lot of free shots. The linebackers liked our defense. They really did. It was a great defense. I would suggest every coach look at doing that defense. And I see these guys are 3-4 guys, or 3-3, or 4-2, or 4-6 bear defenses, whatever. You can line up in any defense in this system. It's easy for the kids. The thing I like about with no huddle, if you go out and you got a 25 defense call, and they do something when it comes to the line of scrimmage, all you got to do is holler at them, shift, 35-35, or 36-25, whatever. And the coach has got a lot more control over what happens on the field by doing that. And I mean, you have to do that with today's fast-paced offense. You've got to be able to change your defense when it comes to the line of scrimmage. You're in trouble.
It sounds like you've got a great multiplicity available to you as a coach already built in.
It's great. I'm just telling you, it's the best defensive concept of all the ones I've ever dealt with. Because, again, we've got all the different looks we can give you. We can slant them, we can loop them, we can blitz them, we can X them, we can do all the different things that cause offenses to have problems.
You were a state champion head coach down in South Carolina. You were a champion head coach. You were a champion offensive coordinator as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You've seen all these things that defenses can do to you, and it sounds like you just took all these things and married them into one package.
That you got to. You got to, and this is something that young coaches need to learn. You know, coaches come out and they play college, don't play college, but they think, well, I'm a quarterback coach, and I want to do everything about quarterbacks. If you're going to be a good football coach, you've got to know both sides of the ball. You've got to be as good on defense as you are offense. And everybody specializes. And it's real funny with me. I'm kind of an offensive line. I don't know, I guess guru's the word. I mean, I do all these camps and stuff, but in all honesty, most of the time when I coached in high school, I was the quarterback receiver coach, because I was always the head coach or offensive coordinator. And so it's hard to coach an offensive line and being a coordinator. So, and I worked those offensive linemen yearly, I mean, all year long. But in practice, sometimes I had a guy assigned to the offensive line where I did the quarterbacks and the receivers and running backs. You know, so I think that was something that helped me as far as my career. It made me a lot more knowledgeable. When I first started coaching, I coached with a coach for the first 4 years I coached. He's probably one of the smartest football guys. He was All-American quarterback at the top of college and was great. I mean, and we ran the Delaware wing tee, and then we ran the wishbone, and we ran it the way you're supposed to do it. And I learned that every offense has to have a counter and another counter to everything the defense does, and our defense has got to have a counter to whatever the offense does. So you got to be smart on both sides of the ball. So I advise every young coach to. I tell our GAs that Wingate, our offensive guys that play the offensive line, they need to go over and study with the defensive guys as much as they can, and vice versa. They need to be a good offensive coach. You got to know defense, and you got to be a good defensive coach. You got to know offense. Coach Mike Pope is my guest, and we'll be talking more defense when we come back here on Coach's Corner Radio Show. Coaches, have you been so frustrated because you can't find the depth of the information on the topic that you're looking for? And the search is compounded by a deadline that you just want to take packing tape and just wrap your head like this to keep your brain from exploding tomorrow. Okay, I think that works now. I found the site. It covers 335-425-4334, any formation you're looking for. FootballDefense.com has over 250 articles on every defensive front, plus stunts, blitzes, coverages, game planning, and more. FootballDefense.com is the premier resource for defensive football coaches focusing on sound defensive principles, drills that get results, and techniques that win. Visit FootballDefense.com and sign up for a free 353 Defense Video Playbook today. FootballDefense.com. That's FootballDefense.com.
This is the CompuSports Radio Network.
A year's worth of thinking.
This week's Coach's Corner is simulcast over on the Mesh Point at OptionCentral.net. Everything Option in one easy place.
I put you behind me, and you never will find me. My feelings are tucked away, you may never see the light of day.
Coach Mike Pope is my guest, and we've been talking defensing the option. We've already talked why he does what he does. We've talked about defensive fronts and mixing and having guys flying all over the place and jumping here and there and everywhere. And his objective is to drive the quarterback absolutely nuts. So
we did that a lot.
We've talked barbecue, we've talked crayfish, we've talked all sorts of stuff here during the break, and now it's time to talk about the outside linebackers, or bandits, or spurs, or camels, or cheetahs, or whatever your nomenclature happens to be.
Mongoose, whatever they call
Mongooses, there you go, Wolverines. Okay, Coach, go ahead and tell us your philosophy on what you're doing with those outside linebackers.
Well, one of the keys I like about the defense, too, is no matter what front we were in, our spurs or outside linebackers or rovers or hybrids, and people call them hybrids, their basic responsibilities were the same. Now, they would have to sometimes come down and play inside, head up or outside shoulder tight end or play out in space. But most of the time, it was the same responsibilities. That was always the key with that, because the outside linebacker or hybrid or spur is probably the hardest place to coach in defense. I've always said it's your strong safety position, which is what that is, position-wise, is the hardest place to coach in football, because those guys have got to be run stoppers, plus they got to really support you on the pass. And then the secondary comes into play, and I was always a big man defense back. We play man with our corners and our safeties, and try to play some zone underneath stuff with that with our linebackers and outside linebackers. And then we would also play some combo coverage, just some zone stuff too. But the spur and the hybrid is a very important position, and I've had all kinds of kids play that position. And usually it's a kid that's not quite big enough to play linebacker, but not quite fast enough to be a corner or safety. And I've had one at Blackville one time that was 5'5", 125, and everybody tried to pick on him, and nobody could beat him. He was 5'5", 125 pounds, and he thought he was Lawrence Taylor. I'm telling you, nobody could block him. And he'd go, they'd be running all the pulling guards and running all those backs out the block, and he'd just take them all up and stay low, and then tackle the guy for a 5-yard loss. He was amazing. Then I've had, the ideal guy there is 6'2" and probably 190, 200 pounds, which is really, that's the ideal size guy. And then the secondary guys, you want guys that are athletic enough to come to pass, yes, they'll come and be good on the run. But I never asked our corners and safeties to do that much run stop, but they were always the secondary defense on the run. What do you tell a coach who leads the conference, if not the state, in 5'9", 170-pound guys? I think it's the ideal place to play, and it's real funny at Blackville. And I'm gonna tell you something about Blackville Hill, and I've coached some really good places, but Blackville. And you have a coach in Somerville, South Carolina, John McKissick, who's the winningest coach in the history of football in the United States. And over the last 35, 40 years, Blackville has actually had a higher winning percentage than he played. And they played, we made our living with 175-pound kids. Now, we had some offensive linemen that were 200 pounds, and most of our defensive kids were all 175 pounds, so maybe 180, and some of them 145 pounds, and we made a living with it. And I think that's one thing about the defenses that we run, this multiple look 4-2-5, that you can play with smaller guys. And I think I can't tell you how much I just think it's the greatest defense there is.
All right, let's go ahead into the teaching progression of this particular position, because this is where people are putting their athletes, usually these outside linebacker positions, in this defense.
For sure. Your spur position or outside linebacker in college football and even in the pros is a big type athlete position. And a lot of those guys are very athletic, and you've got to be athletic because you're going to be put in situations where you're going to be in some kind of situation where you've got to play quarterback, but yet you've got to have a hands free to build on the pitch back and take the pitch off too. And one thing we always try to do was try to have definite. We did different things with our outside linebackers. Sometimes they would have quarterback, sometimes they would have picks, and sometimes they would feather or soft play the quarterback. The old 5-2 defensive guys would feather that or slow play that quarterback and try to play both quarterback and pitch. It's a hard place to play. You got to be a good tackle too. So again, those guys can either make up these plays where you have 5-yard loss or give up 10 or 10 yards or more.
Now, as a containment player in this particular defense, usually your 5 or 9 technique is going to be having that position of having to take the quarterback How does your spur linebacker play the option normally in your defense?
Typically, we'll fly him to the pitch. In the old days, we used to actually play it where our outside linebackers tackled that pitchback every play. And then they went a rule about defensive holding. We can't do that. So we actually ran up. We would actually tackle that pitchback every play. And then we got where we couldn't do that, so we'd be right his nose. And we tried to take away the pitch. Because if you're playing the inside option, and you're going to get some good quarterback runs, most of the time the one that's going to break big yardage that pitch. Play down the sideline. So you've got to play the pitch. You got to have somebody that's real proficient at doing that. You're going to get in trouble. So we work hard on teaching our guys to tackle properly in the tackling space and be able to play the pitch.
In your defense, I'm sure you have some kind of a plan in which kind of to cross those responsibilities over in order to confuse that quarterback.
Sure do. And in our defense, usually defensive tackles are interior down linemen and linebackers, they had dive. And then we did different things with our ends. We either took him and put him on dive, or he took quarterback. And our spurs usually on pitch, and our corners slow played it, watched pass first, and came up second on the second and run. Our secondary defense on the run. And then sometimes we would actually bring our defensive ends down hard into that B gap where our guards were in the A gap, and they had the B gap, and our linebackers would loose, and they'd have quarterback. And that was always a really good stunt. We did that because it was hard for that quarterback. He read keep because that tackle, that defensive end was down in that gap where you're running the dive, but you didn't see that flying linebacker coming to us out through the inside shoulder, and we'd make big hits then, or sometimes we'd be hitting him as he's trying to pitch, and he'd make a bad pitch. That was always a real good stunt to bring the defensive ends down hard into the A gap from the center and guard, to bring that defensive end hard down into the B gap from the guard tackle, and then loop that linebacker. That was very good defensive look. And we called that bullet. That was a bullet call for our defense.
One of the things that absolutely makes me crazy as far as being a former coach and yet being a member of the, let's say, a not-so-powerful, not-so-influential member of the media, is I hear the term batted around that in order to play the option, you have to play assignment defense, which I think is just absolutely insane because every defense is assignment defense.
Oh, yeah, sure. Every defense, if you're not playing assignment gap control defense, you're missing the boat. And I love seeing teams just line up. And I've always said I like blitz and I like stunting, but we want to do it for effect. We want to have a planned purpose for every blitz we do and every stunt we do. Not just wildly. If we see teams with wildly stunting, all we're going to do is, like I said before, is we're going to gap down and we're going to run plays off tackle and we're going to run options and we're going to kick and stuff like that when the cows go home. I think you always got to play responsibility gap control defense. That's one of the things I like about the defense. Every gap is controlled by a players assigned to every gap, every defense. That's always been important. And we may doing it by looping and stunting to get there, but we will have somebody in every gap.
Mike Pope is my guest, and we'll be talking more defensing the option when we come back here on the CompuSports Radio Network.
This is the CompuSports Radio Network.
Track your entire equipment and clothing inventory in real time with Athletic Equipment Manager. You'll know where it is and who has it. Quickly add or adjust inventory levels. A tag system assigns and tracks each piece. Look up the status of single items or groups of items. Assemble and print reports for each athlete or entire teams, any sport. And it works in single and multi-user mode. Even on your laptop, Athletic Equipment Manager puts you in control. Download it today and try it for free from CompuSports.
This segment of Coach's Corner is sponsored by CompuSports, publisher of Athletic Equipment Manager software, the affordable sports inventory software that starts at just $199, available at CompuSports.com. Mike Pope is my guest here in front of the digital fireplace. He is talking to us from his home in Monroe, North Carolina. If you live in the South, it's Monroe. Isn't that right, Coach?
That's right, Monroe. It's they call it Wingate University, and everybody in town calls it Wingate, North Carolina. Yeah, Wingate University at Wingate, North Carolina. I mean, it's real funny.
Wow, we've got a lot of towns down here like that.
Oh, yeah. Believe it or not, there's a bunch of good old Southern-speaking people here in Monroe, like me, I'm telling you. I tell the story the way everybody learns to talk in Monroe is they put about 3 or 4 marbles in your mouth and make you walk around talking with marbles, and that's how you learn to talk.
Coach Pope has a great website and a great resource for football called hogtough.net, and you kind of have to say that the same way with marbles in your mouth, HAWGTUFF.net, and he's got the PowerPoint up there for the defense that we've been talking about, defending the triple option, so you can follow right along with us here. Coach, you wanted to talk secondary during this particular portion.
Oh, yes, sir, and that's a very important phase of the defense. One thing I think so many coaches do, they put too many things in the head of defensive backs. They want them to be run stoppers, but yet they want them to play pass correctly every time, too. I always try to maintain the idea with our defensive backs that we are not going to get beat deep, we're not going to give up big play, and we're going to play pass first, and then we're going to be run support second. And our first thing we're going to do, we're going to fly out there and backpedal 3 or 4 yards back and read on the run, and then we're going to come up and see definitely pass, and we pass definitely run, and then we're going to come up support, but we're not going to get beat on play action pass. So if we do error, it's going to be an error of the idea of playing pass first and running second. And you've got to have some good athletes. I always try to find some athletes that can play man coverage. I really believe in man coverage. I was listening to a video the other day, and a great defensive coach, Rex Ryan. I'm not a real fan of his as far as personality, but he's a really good defensive coach. And he explained in his video that most people ran zone because they were cowards, and that basically, even though you were playing zone, you had to play man-to-man in your zone if you were playing a zone defense. And he was correct. I mean, if you're playing cover 3, when that guy gets in the third, you got to play man on that guy in the third. Or in the middle of the third, you got to play man on that guy. So you're basically playing man coverage all the time. So we did a lot of man coverage again because we were usually, bringing a linebacker or slanting and stuff. We used to play a lot of man coverage, and they worked hard on that. And again, we were definitely looking pass first and run second. And that was ingrained in our guys' heads.
I mean, you have to play pass first at some of the depths that you're playing, especially you're 7, 8, 9 yards, and you're playing against a team that's coached by, maybe Jerry Campbell or James Vint or Dan Pippin or some of our other coaches' corner alumni, and they're looking to see what that defensive back's going to do, because if he's up there too far and he's got his nose up there stuck a little bit too close, that ball's going to be flying over his head.
Okay, where we always look for, if a guy's playing man coverage and they're playing up too close, we're going to take the inside veer or some play action, we're going to throw the streak. I mean, we're going to throw it up and make him run for it. And, a lot of times we hit it for big plays, man. It's the best that turns the game around faster than a big, long pass reception for a touchdown. And you just have to be ready to bite the bullet. And you have to be, I don't like putting it in the terminology. Some people say you put your corners on an island. I think that's a hard thing to do. I don't want to put any kid in a situation where he feels uncomfortable, but you basically are on the island out there, and you're in a critical situation. Usually corners are like offensive linemen. Nobody knows anything about offensive linemen or says anything about offensive linemen unless they get beat. And most people only notice the corners unless they get beat. They're kind of the ill-regarded people on defense, until they get beaten, and everybody saying, "Well, that secondary guy sucks." I mean,
or they get called for holding,
or get called for holding, or pass interference. That's the only time they're paying attention to them. They don't see all those plays that they're covering that guy long way down the field and then giving up, and they're getting a sack with the defensive line and linebackers causing coverage. Most time in high school, a lot of the sacks are called coverage sacks. They do such a good job of covering that the quarterbacks don't have anybody to throw to. So playing corner is very important. I think safety. I think you got to have a guy that plays safety. It's also fast enough to play deep third or play a man coverage if he has to. But you got to have a guy there that's going to be ready to come up and make. Usually, if a safety, and if you're playing good defense, safety should make most of his tackles with 7 to 10 yards. You know, a back breaks the line of scrimmage, and the guy makes the tackle. You know, our bench is up to 5 to 6 yards. You know, if you got the safety being your leading tackler, you're usually in trouble. You know, I think he's got to be a sure tackler. I think he's got to be a smart kid. Most time he's the one calling the coverages and making adjustments. So, you know, by playing safety, got to most of the time. In the small schools I coached, my safety was my quarterback, and he played safety whenever it was paying in his nitty-gritty time. He was going to be in the game. I mean, I didn't like playing my quarterbacks on defense because it just to me a chance of bruising their hands or whatever they could, you know, or breaking a finger or something. So I tried not to do that, but if it was nitty-gritty time, my quarterback was going to be in the game, and he's going to play all free safety.
Playing in a 3-deep secondary against an option team, you've got a lot of space you've got to cover. You have massive responsibilities, and you have to read those keys right the first time, because if not, you've got people running free all over the place.
Oh, yeah, and the key in high school or lower-level ball, corners, secondary guys, corners and safeties, they got to be football smart guys. And I'm going to be honest with you, most receivers, they are sure keys. I mean, you can tell by the way they line up whether it's pass or run. If they got their weight forward, leaning on those feet, and they look eager to come to the line of scrimmage and line up, it's probably pass. If they kind of dolly around and come up there and slowly get set and kind of be slacking their stance, it's probably run. Most wide receivers don't like to block. Now, that's one thing I always did with my wide receivers. I had a little term I told them that if you don't block, you don't get the rock. And so that meant if they didn't block, they weren't going to get the ball thrown to them. And so that I kind of got in their head, and I had some really good receivers. In fact, Troy Brown that played with the Patriots was one of the best receivers for the Patriots ever in their history. And one of the greatest players, you know, in college, that came from College Football Hall of Fame at Marshall. He played receiver and played secondary for me. He'll tell you to this day that he heard that if you don't block, you're not going to get the rock. He could hear it in his range, you know. I said,
it's funny you bring that up, because I was in Atlanta this year for the Glazer Clinic, and the head coach from Carson Newman came down there and said the very same thing.
Oh, I'm sure. And again, they're an option team. They're a split-back option team that their receivers don't block. They're not going to have a good play. I mean, they're not going to get a ball pitch and make one. And their mentality, you know, Carson Newman's mentality, they're going to run it, and they're going to run it, they're going to run it, they're going to run it on fourth down if they have to. And if they throw it, it's going to be the streak off the dive or maybe a bootleg.
Mike Pope is my guest. Hey, Coach, can you stick around for one more segment?
I got you.
All right. We'll be back with more Mike Pope when we come back here on Coach's Corner on the CompuSports Radio Network.
And all along, in some way, we work it out. Tick-tock, the way.
If you are interested in becoming a sponsor on Coach's Corner on the CompuSports Radio Network, and you'd like to place your commercial right here on this program, just email me, John, John, at CompuSportsRadio.com. That's John, John, at CompuSportsRadio.com. In the meantime, let's enjoy a little bit of Cookie Cutter Girl from the state of Maine for, about 30 seconds or so. Been having a great time talking with Coach Mike Pope. This is his second appearance on Coach's Corner, and for those of you diehards who were here with us last year, we went down to Duncan, South Carolina, and picked up the Hog Tough Camp and interviewed Coach Pope and a number of his associates down there at Burns High School in Duncan, South Carolina. Now, before we turn Coach Pope loose to conduct the rest of his life, we want to, number one, plug the book, because he's got a great book out on his life and his coaching career, as well as his website. You already know about the website by now. You probably already navigated thoroughly and downloaded absolutely everything there is up there. And if you haven't, what's wrong with you? Go do it now. The website is www.hogtuff.net, the Southern Vernacular version, HAWGTUFF. And, yeah, that's the way we pronounce it down here in the South, Hog Tough. Coach, let's go ahead and talk about your book for a minute. A very, very well-written book. And if you're a fan of football at all, you need to get this book. Coach, tell us a little bit about the book and the author here.
Okay, well, the book's called Do They Play Football in Heaven? It's written by Wilt Browning, who's a great author. He's had numerous books published. He was a public relations man for the old Baltimore Colts and the Atlanta Falcons, and was a noted sports writer in the Winston, Greensboro area. He lives in Kernersville, North Carolina. We went into the Hall of Fame in May, and alongside him in the same class, our president of our university at Wingate University in Wingate, North Carolina, Jerry McGee. And both those two are my favorite guys in the world, so it's real neat that they went into the Hall of Fame in the same class this year. And so it's real neat watching them being honored like that. That's a great honor being in the Hall of Fame. And the book's called Do They Play Football in Heaven? And my life has always been based on my belief in God and my family and football. But my wife has always been my life, God, family, and football. But sometimes I get my priorities mixed as far as the order that we do. But it's called Do They Play Football in Heaven? Because my dream of when I finally God decides He's going to take me, it's going to be on a big play, big game, 4th down and 1 on the goal line, getting ready to score to win the game or lose the game. And we're going to run a play, and we cross the goal line as the horn goes off, and we score. And I look up and I see my family up the stands, and I look up at God and say, here I come. And I go down, and I'm going up to heaven to coach. Because I really think there's going to be football games in heaven. And I tell those old hungry offensive linemen at my camp that heaven for us is going to be where we play football year-round, every day, all the time. Then we have 5 pregame meals where they can eat all they want, and they don't never get fat. And they can play and never get tired. And somehow or another, God's going to figure out we can play the game and be competitive, but nobody's ever going to lose. You're always going to score. You're always going to stop the other team, and nobody can do that but Him. But it's a good book. It's called Do They Play Football in Heaven? It kind of chronicles our life. And I coached at 10 different high schools in my career, and was very successful with that. And I had a funny career. I was a state champion, a state runner-up, and also I was over the kid and got fired. So I've seen both sides, the good, bad, and ugly of high school football. Now in the Wingate, where I really enjoy the Wingate college situation. I really respect coaches there a lot. They're right. And then all the coaches and our kids in our school, great kids, and we got a good football coach. It's real fun doing that. And besides doing that, I do the camps, and we're doing 25 camps in 9 states this past summer. And so we had a big time, and then we're also changing our website over from offensive line to all positions. That's been a monster. I mean, that's a time-consuming monster. I mean, some nights I don't even sleep at night. I might get 2 or 3 hours of sleep.
Goodness gracious. Well, Coach, good luck to you down there at Wingate and down there in Monroe, North Carolina. And our best to your wife, Ginger, whom we also met last year while we were down in Duncan. And good luck in all your endeavors down there, Coach.
Well, we got things going. I told somebody the other day, I worked since I was 7 years old. We farmed, and I had to get up in the morning and feed the cows and the pigs and do all the farm chores, and then play football and basketball and track. And my daddy and mom always let us play everything we wanted to, and we always had plenty of money, but we had to work. And I've always worked all my life. It seems like now I'm supposed to be retired having fun, and I'm working as hard or more hours than I ever did before. But it's work I enjoy doing. I love the Wingate football. I love going to camp, and I love the website. And that website is an action with me because my biggest thing is to try to help all the coaches and the players and all the parents and all the fans of football be as knowledgeable about the game as they can. And you can go to that site, you can live on that site for months and just find all kind of information. I tell people, if you can't find it on that website, it's not there. It's not there. We went all over everywhere else. Every website, playbook in America we're trying to put on there. So I would suggest that you go to www.hogtest.net. It's a great site.
Absolutely it is. Coach, thank you for being on the program once again.
And we thank you, John. I always appreciate all you do.
For the rest of you, some final thoughts after this. A big thank you to Coach Pope for coming onto the program, and I think you can tell he's beginning to like this just a little bit. And make sure you check out his website at hogtuff.net, HAWGTUFF.net. And also check out optioncentral.net, everything option in one easy place. Of course, we were simulcasting over there with this program today as well.
Next on Coach's Corner.
On our next program, Dr. Chris Stankovich, he's back in the house. The doctor will really be in. And we'll be talking about some of the hot topics in the coaching profession here on our next show. Coach's Corner is an Abundant Harvest production here on the CompuSports Radio Network. I'm John Anderson. Make sure you join us for our next show. Dr. Stankovich and I always have a great time. Join us, won't you?